When I was at university, my best friends from Vietnam and Taiwan taught me about a concept called yuanfen in Mandarin or yuanfen in Vietnamese, and yes, I butchered that. It doesn't have a direct translation in English, but it can be defined as the perceived chance that brings people or events together. A kind of synchronicity or affinity occasion. A feeling that both people have already known each other for a very long time, even if they've never even met. That is how I felt in my final week in Germany when I decided to live with a total stranger in Bavaria, living for free in exchange for working in her garden and exchanging knowledge on meditation, spirituality, and tarot cards. I hope this ode to her and her garden gives you even a slice of the peace that it gave me. Living in a stranger's house is so intimidatingly intimate. The first few days were all about learning the rules of the house, being respectful and making sure that you're more of a benefit to your host than a burden. If I'm honest, I found my host a little intimidating at first. She was a 68-year-old Bavarian woman who had been living there for 35 years and knew exactly how she liked to live. My first day was spent learning how she liked things to be, from closing the bathroom door after using it to washing the dishes in a certain way. And I tried to embrace this teething process with humility. It is such a gift to enter someone's home, and I tried to view the idiosyncrasies of strangers' lives as exciting opportunities to experience the world in new ways and update my perspective on what it means to live a good life. There's also something about Germans which is a bit similar to British people, where there's a high initial wall. Germans can come across strict, mean, cold, or overly structured, but you also always know where you stand, and that directness can be such a gift. I also knew that if you can win your way into a German's heart, then the love and loyalty abounds, because there's no pretending. You know that it's real. I practiced a lot of German, which meant that sometimes we were limited to the most basic conversations, and I felt like I had no personality, especially because the Bavarian accent sounds like gibberish and made my 5 months of learning German feel futile. But nonetheless, I knew enough to start to get to know her and her world, so I set off into the garden. I spent most of my mornings tending to her garden, and after living in London for the last 4 months, I had forgotten the sheer peace you can find in nature. Within the monotony of the physical movements and the blooming splendour of all that green, it felt like all the subconscious walls that I'd built up to survive the harsh city of London began to fall. I don't know if you've ever heard of the book The Women Who Run with Wolves, but it's such a great book featuring lots of old folk tales about women who lived at one with nature, who followed their intuition no matter the consequences, and who truly thought for themselves. As I tended to the garden and got to know my host over breakfast and lunch and conversations, I realised that that was her. She is a woman who runs with wolves. She lives so unapologetically. She went through a divorce a few years ago and has since devoted a lot of her time and energy to raising her garden and just learning to be content. Amazing. Thank you. I began to sense that maybe I had ended up here, at this house of all the houses in Germany, for a reason. I sensed that she had answers to questions I was trying to answer, ones that had surfaced when I was brave enough to end my past relationship. I decided then to really make the most of being there and to lean into whatever questions arose. That day, my host also recommended that I headed into Munich for the Tollwood Festival. It was such a fun display of Bavarian culture, and I'm so glad I went. But what was perhaps even more exciting was that I happened to stumble on the city just as they celebrated Pride, because the universe always knows the best timing for you, even if you don't. I was such a happy, celebratory little gay. Hello my sweet angel friends. I'm in a little town just outside Munich and it's currently pouring with rain and I'm tucked away in the little room where I have this gorgeous view of all the greenery in the garden, and there's all this spiritual imagery around me, a hanging interpretation of the chakras, and I'm at my workaway. If you guys have never heard of workaway, it's basically a way to travel almost for free. Like, you get to stay with locals in exchange for a few hours of work, and they list what kind of work they want. It can be everything from care for my kids for a few hours a day to help me around the house to, in my case, give me a tarot card reading and share your knowledge of Vipassana and help in my garden. And I really wanted to improve my German knowledge, and also it's one of my favourite things when I'm travelling to experience a local perspective. Like, I just love, actually getting to know real people in a place, and I think you see it with so much more depth and richness, and so it's just been so lovely so far. I'm not gonna lie, it's really hard to film because I feel awkward filming in someone's house. Like, I know I have her consent, but it still feels weird. And her garden is gorgeous, and it's this gorgeous safe space, and I love being in nature. And what are the chances today, after I finished my work, I was like, let me just pop into Munich. It's like a 45-minute train. Why not? Let's just do it, Jade. So I went at like 2 p.m. and then I realised that it's Pride. It's literally Pride in Munich. I have been manifesting going to Pride. Like, I am just trying to seize and own my queer identity more and more in life. And I was like, oh my god, I'm going to Pride, not dressed for Pride. This is a bit sad. But thankfully my daily attire includes gems, so I felt like I was giving queer a bit, but I was like, oh my gosh, any rainbow sticker, any rainbow flag that I can find, let me slap it on me just so that I feel like I'm part of this. And I'm just so grateful to the universe for nudging me to go into the city today so that I could experience Pride in Munich. And it was just such a wonderful time, and I just feel so like proud of who I am and proud of these safe spaces and these cities where I get to publicly own who I am, and it just feels so celebrated. Like, it's just truly such a luxury to be able to own your queerness in a country like Germany, in a country like the UK, and I just don't take it for granted. Like, this is a right that has been absolutely struggled for, and unfortunately is still being struggled for in so many countries around the world. Like, I just recently read this whole thing about Ghana and how they're thinking of putting more homophobic laws similar to Uganda, which is so heart-wrenching to think that in 2024 so many people still don't even have the right to love who they want to love and be who they want to be. So when I go to Pride and I feel joy, my joy is political. My joy is me taking up space, is me owning something that a lot of people around the world don't want me to own. And it feels good. It feels good to be out and loud and proud. I'm super tired and this room is so cozy and cute, and can't wait to go to bed. Tomorrow, if the weather's nice in the morning, I'll probably work in the garden all morning. I'm here for another 4.5 days, so I can relax and really get to know the space, and also pop into Munich, get to know Munich, and most importantly, get to know my host. I love getting a little slice of someone's life. It is such a privilege. Also, guys, it just makes you realise that all of us are raised into one perspective of life, you know, like based on where we were raised, the life experiences that we had, the life experiences of our parents and their thoughts, their values, their beliefs, all of that shapes who we are. And the second you go into a host family of any kind, especially in another culture or anywhere around the world, you are just offered a brand new perspective on life. And I love collecting these little perspectives. I love hearing people's stories and views on the world and the reasons they have those beliefs, because it just helps me in being able to cultivate my own, and reminds me that literally no belief is right or wrong, even ones I wish were right. They're all just a culmination of our life experiences. Like, even people who are homophobic, like, I truly don't blame them. Like, I never hate people who are homophobic because I just see it as a product of their life experiences. Like, they were raised to believe that. Do I wish that they held other beliefs? Yes. Do I think that they should be approached through a lens of empathy and encouraged to change their beliefs? Yes. But at the same time, I don't blame them. At times I have held beliefs that I no longer believe in now. I have dear friends who, when I first met them, were extremely homophobic, would happily now admit that, can admit that it was also just a product of the country that they came from, the parents they were raised around, who are now by their allies or also queer. Like, it's okay. People who are discriminatory also deserve love and empathy, because the reasons they're discriminatory is often not themselves. And most of the time when you approach people from the lens of love and empathy first, they are way more likely to reconsider and maybe even change their beliefs because they're not in defensive mode. So for me, being dropped in a new person's house is yet another opportunity and reminder to cultivate this empathy for people who are different to me, who have different life stories, and once again to challenge my view of the world, the view that I want to adopt, and how I want to encourage other people to have that view in a way that also respects theirs. Gute Nacht.
Ganapataye namaha, Om Gam 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 Ganapataye namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye namaha, Om Gam Ganapataye namaha, Om Gam Ganapataye namaha. They said it's time, and I know that without a doubt, the spirit in us all is trying to break out. But this is your time, this is my time to illuminate, cause we were made to shine. Divinity by law in our DNA. They lied but we saw truth anyway. This is divine recognition for this time.
Hello, what a dream way to spend an afternoon, just reading, drinking good tea, having wonderful conversations with my workaway host. Okay guys, genuinely, she is a modern day witch. In the best way, like I mean that as the highest of compliments. She originally studied pharmacy, was a pharmacist for like 20 years, so has all this knowledge of like actual drugs and how they interact with the body, prescriptions, etc. But she also studied homeopathy and has all this knowledge about plants and herbs and how they can heal different ailments. Like she has these giant cupboards of loads of different herbs and plants that she also grows in her garden. And like any time that she's ill or someone she knows is ill, she'll like concoct this potion for them. But also ideologically, I feel like she has unpacked so much of the misogyny that we are raised into. She's such an empowered woman who truly lives a life on her own terms. Like she just does not give a fuck what other people think about her, like genuinely. She went through a messy divorce and freed herself from the entrapment of who she was during that marriage, and now only enters into loving partnerships that serve her and allow her to be her authentic self. And though she's not the most financially abundant, that sounds mean, I don't mean it in a mean way, she doesn't live the most luxurious life, like she'll make sure that she lives within her means. She's so generous, like she doesn't ask money of the people staying with her, and she offers so much food. Like she's cooked for me, she cooked the most healthy and delicious lunch. She'll cook like a wonderful breakfast cooked with Ayurvedic styles and tiger nuts and all these like very healthy, nutritious things. And I just feel so grateful to learn from her, to converse with her. I just think she's wonderful, and I'm very grateful I'm here, and I'm gonna keep reading my amazing book. That day, I was sitting in the garden, observing the sounds and silences of the nature, when I spontaneously started crying. I didn't know why the tears were flowing, they just were. And it felt like in that moment, I was just truly myself. In all my colours and quirks and manners of being, I was witnessed by the nature and held. I was so much more than what I do or what I have done. I just was. I was me. It was in that moment of being fully conscious and aware that I felt like maybe I'm at the end of my death phase. If you've been following me for a while, you'd know that I received a tarot card in February representing this chapter of my life, and it was death and rebirth. And I had changed so many things. I broke up with my long-term partner, I moved to London, I started a new job at a school, like so much happened and changed. And I felt like I was just in mourning the whole time, processing past versions of myself before I could let the new one in. I don't know, but in that garden I just wondered if this was it, if the death phase was ending and here was rebirth coming. And I just felt excited and ready to welcome whatever this new version of me holds. Wow!
He from Peru.
Wow! Okay, that's not gonna be my level.
No, mine either.
Wow.
And then she was here at the same time from Italy, and when she saw this, she said, "Now I'm ambitious."
Wow! Gosh, that is beautiful. So, why do I feel like my host and I were both meant to meet? Because for me, I was gifted the release of finishing a cycle of mourning. And for her, I helped illuminate a big area of uncertainty in her life. I gave my host a tarot card reading on my second day. This is a skill that I have been studying for the last 6 months, and I really have studied a lot. I studied the major arcana, the minor arcana, the history of tarot. I've been to workshops, I've met other people who read, and it is just my favourite hobby for self-reflection. My host didn't tell me anything about it before the reading, but the cards revealed needing to make a big change in her life, and that at present she was stuck. The cards showed her needing to embrace the energy of the Fool, which is the very first card in the deck, who naively strides into a brand new life without hesitation, because taking that risk means good things will come. After the reading, she confided in me that she had a gut feeling for the last year or so that she needed to leave her house, even though she'd lived there for 35 years and loved her garden more than anything. She'd been desperately silencing this gut feeling and not wanting to believe it was true because she was scared that her health and finances couldn't handle such a change. But the cards illuminated that she had to go. She couldn't ignore the feeling. It was time to embrace a new chapter, somehow, somewhere. And so much of the week was spent empowering her to believe that she could do this, she could take the leap, and that she could trust that it'll all work out. And I'm so grateful that I could be part of her journey at that moment. I felt like we needed each other in different ways.
I can see it.
Yeah, I can't really see anything. Hi everyone, this is the lovely Regina, and she has just hosted me for the last few days in her gorgeous home, in her gorgeous garden. And I just feel, I feel honestly so like healed by my time here, and the presence of the garden is just so special. And I think, just like you've been so generous, and it's such a testament to the power of strangers, and you know, like even the fact that you put your home out there to welcome in foreigners, I think is very inspiring.
Yes, it was such a pleasure having you here. I enjoyed it so much myself. It felt also very healing for me. And this garden, yes, it really has a special energy, as you said yesterday, and it also feels very healing for me. With all being in contact with all, I can't see the nature beings, the elementals, but I know there are a lot here. I really can only encourage people to get more connected to nature, spend as much time as they can in hopefully really, how to say it, nature as it used to be, not the clean parks we have nowadays when they have big trees. It's okay.
Like a
it's
well-mown
good.
lawn.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is really nourishing. Nature is really nourishing. Plants are nourishing, and they are so much connected to us, and you have to respect both other people, but also the plant kingdom and even the mineral kingdom, which we always see as not living, but even that is not true. I think everything has an energy, and we really should honor that.
So beautiful. Yeah, and like you can feel that is the approach that you have towards nature in the way that the garden has flourished around you.
Yes.
Like it feels like the plants know that they're being honoured here, and so they'll give you back the same energy that you pour into them.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
What would you say to anyone who maybe isn't as experienced with going into nature and doesn't know how to feel connected to nature? Imagine if they live in a city, like going to a park. How do they feel that connection if maybe they're not used to experiencing it?
Just sit down and relax and spend some time in stillness. And just be with your feeling, with what you sense, what's coming up. This will develop with the time.
That's what I did yesterday. I sat here and the sun was shining and I was like, let me just take a moment in the garden, and then I found myself crying for no reason. Like I wasn't thinking about anything in particular, but I just felt so emotional all of a sudden, and I think that's the power of nature.
Yes.
Yeah. When you're still within it, it like unlocks parts of yourselves that maybe you don't even know need to be recognised. Yeah, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, it was such a pleasure. You're so welcome.
Oh. And thank you guys for watching. Yeah, literally, Regina is like a modern day witch in the best sense. She is a literal modern day witch. She is a woman who runs with wolves.
So something I really would recommend to go on adventures. I'm on the cusp of leaving my home where I lived in for 35 years, and yeah, it freaks me out on one hand, but on the other hand, I know I have to go on this adventure and try something new.
Yeah, it's so brave. We did this tarot card reading on the first full day I was here.
Yeah, and
that
I
was
love
like,
this reading.
It feels like, it's such a culmination of like my learning to read and being able to sit down with you who has this huge life decision to make, and how the cards help illuminate that. It's scary but exciting. It's the death so that you can have the rebirth in a gorgeous other way.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys heard Regina. Get yourselves into nature and go on more adventures. Not all strangers are scary. I dare you to approach the world with more open-mindedness, and you never know what you might find. I love you. Thank you for being in this corner of the internet. Bye.